Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile.
I'm your co-host, John Thomas, paranormal investigator, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and metapals? In today's episode, we will be exploring the world of the Kahuna Shaman, past lives, and learning about ancestral baggage. What exactly is a Kahuna Shaman? How exactly do past lives work? Stay tuned to find out.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more. Bring us back, Jonathan.
Shit, I forget every time. Every time, like literally. All right, we are back. And we didn't say we had a special guest this time, but we sure as hell do, ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages. Although some of you ages shouldn't be listening to this because we say the F word quite a bit.
Not for children.
Her name is Janese, and she is joining us all the way from, where are you joining us from?
Hawaii on the Big Island.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Janese.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. You are, like, just even talking before this, like, you are such a delight to talk to. I left our last conversation just, like, on such a great note. I was just like, this is going to be so great. I'm so amped to jump into all of this.
It was good. I think we talked like for 10 minutes afterwards. Just, yeah, like, oh, God, this is going to be so much fun. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right?
And then we're like, okay, we need to eat. Bye.
Right.
It's like, good chat. Got to go stuff my face.
Yes.
Right.
So, you said you're on the Big Island. Did you grow up there? Is that where you've always been?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm born and raised here. And so is my family. My family's from here as well. So my mom's family. And then my dad's actually an immigrant from the Philippines. And he was made in the Philippines, but he was born here.
I like that. Like, made in the Philippines, but born here.
Yeah.
He was exported to Hawaii.
Right.
Or would it be imported? I don't know.
Imported.
Pick one.
You've got the Hawaiian background. What do you find your, like, cultural affinity is to? Like, what is in your heart? I don't know how to say that. I know that sounded weird, but, like, you know, when a lot of the older cultures, as we start to kind of go into modern times, right? Some of it gets lost, some of it gets mixed. Even for myself, like, I'm Mexican American, but I still have some of the, you know, original kind of mixed in their culture that has a lot of, like, the curandera beliefs. But then now it's also more Americanized, I guess, for lack of a better word. So for you, how does that tie in for you?
Well, growing up, it was just I was a local girl from Hawaii. And so I didn't know, like, mainland or anything different. And so for me, growing up, like, spiritually or with the Kahuna knowledge or any of that wasn't talked about. It wasn't something that my family embraced growing up. I pretty much just was raised like a typical local girl, went to the beach, like hiking, you know, went to school, had a lot of family, had a lot of cousins and family around. But when it came to that part of who we are and our lineage as a kahuna, that wasn't talked about. That wasn't embraced. Yeah.
Which leads me to the big question. What is a Kahuna Shaman?
And so a kahuna is a priest, a shaman, someone who has spiritual knowledge. So this comes down, so I'm a generational kahuna from my mother's side. So it got passed down from my mom, from my grandfather, and from my great-grandmother from that side of the family. I guess back in the day, if it was before the missionaries came or before civilization or Americanized, or as we are now, what I would be part of the tribe would be the kahuna, where someone will come to for spiritual knowledge, for healing, for all that kind of stuff. Like a medicine woman or some sort. Yeah.
So for the kahuna, it could be male or female, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter if it was male or female, but in my family it was mostly female. The female had the power of the kahuna power, and then it got distorted like several generations, and this is how the karmic baggage got created. So down the lineage after the missionaries came in the 1905, what happened to Hawaii is a little culture about Hawaii, is our practice, our Hawaiian practice, our language, our dance, our culture got suppressed. We couldn't be who we are. So a lot of us went into hiding and had to be who we weren't. And so because of that, and if you were caught doing any of that, like singing or dancing or even practicing our spiritual practice, it would be prison, or it would be punishment in prison. So that fear got like tainted in the lineage, in the family. So after that, because of that, that got like held into our, it's like a trauma, right? So it got held into our body, got held into our energy fields, and then that got passed down. So then when I was growing up, that's why we didn't talk about that part. And anytime we brought it up, my family would be like, we don't talk about that. That's bad. Like immediately cut me down. Like I would see shit growing up.
It's that trauma and fear, like so deep in there that even if they don't understand why they're afraid, it's like in there so much in the energy, right? Being carried through. Oh, that makes sense.
So I wouldn't be me if I didn't, kind of make this a little lighter. So you were talking about the not being able to talk about it, not dancing, not anything. Reminded me of Footloose, but with worse consequences.
Yes,
So
I love that movie growing up. I watched it all the time. Yes,
right,
exactly.
yeah. Automatically, the first thing that went to my mind, but with worse consequences. So it's like, holy crap.
Actually, when she was talking about that, I actually was thinking about the Maori in New Zealand. They kind of went through something similar where they got beaten down and they almost lost their culture, right? It wasn't until I think the past few decades that they tried to resurrect and put it in this like the language in the schools and resurrect like the culture in the different communities to bring it back, because they almost completely killed that identity out. So it's interesting that happens to spiritual people, right?
Yes.
Like you see the spiritual groups get like we talked about this last year, right? Like with any of the communities that embrace a spiritual thing that people can't see, they fear. And it's almost like the need to just like kill it because they don't understand it. And it's awful.
Well, I noticed it mostly in indigenous cultures. It's really, really suppressed in most indigenous cultures. That even here, like when Captain James Cook came, it was to the point that our Hawaiian population was actually being killed off because of disease. So there's not a lot of 100% Hawaiians actually walking around, and it's hard to find because we've been mixed, and through generation. So that's why it's really important that I'm very blessed that our culture came back and we were able to have it and speak it and dance it, and it's taught in our schools now.
So with it being, because I've been curious about that, not only with like, the tribal groups like the Maori, like the indigenous groups, but also with yours, how do you, when it's been killed so much and the fear, the trauma not to talk about it gets put in place, how do those traditions get taught again? Who holds on to it to teach it out? Or is it something intuitive that you just feel and you learn to grow and know? Do you know what I mean?
For me or for in general?
Let's talk about with you.
Okay. So for me, I had to like work on my own personal stuff, my own personal shit to get here. And then once I started clearing the energy that was around, like the fear that I was talking about, then I was able to like tap into my past ancestors and bring forth the information that I need to bring it forward and to use that information to heal and help others.
So it's like connecting to your ancestors who hold that knowledge to then provide you what you need for your specific path of what you're doing.
Yeah, because I couldn't go to anyone that could actually teach me how to do any of this because no one was available. And the ones who were available were passed on. So I talk a lot with my grandfather. I've never met him, but he seems to come to me all the time with a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge. And so I get to tap into that. But first, I had to clear up my shit first.
Create the space for that connection.
Exactly. Exactly. Totally.
So when did you realize that that was your path? Like that you were a kahuna?
Well, let's just say this isn't something that when you get asked as a child, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
I wanted to be a flight attendant. That's what I wanted to be.
I mean, you're taking flights now. It's just to a different place.
Level. There's a whole different level here.
Exactly.
But yes. Wonder if I get air miles on this one. Maybe spiritual brownie points.
Look, I've got all the miles, the reward travel points.
I got all of that. I got you. Yeah, so
Can
No, I lost
do you
my
get
train of
companion flights?
thought. You want to come along?
Sure, why not?
Who's coming with me? Well, I knew when I was young that I was different. Like I would see shit all the time. Like my grandmother would come and visit me. And anytime I tell my mom or my aunt or anybody, like, hey, this is what happened. And they'll be like, no, we don't talk about that. That's bad. I'm like, okay. Until one day I was at my auntie's house. So growing up, that created a trauma for myself because I associated anytime going to my family, it was bad. So because it was bad, opening up to my family, what I felt, what I saw, I ended up not saying a lot of things. And it kept me from speaking out. It kept me from standing in who I am. So that created a karmic pattern of that, which kind of goes into the same karmic pattern that got passed on of the fear. So then I would go to my aunt's house. One day I went to my aunt's house and there's this picture of this lady on the wall. And I'm like, hey, who's that lady? My aunt's like, that's your grandmother. I go, well, that lady comes to visit me. She's like looking at me like I was cray. Absolutely, like she did not know how to deal with me. Immediately she just said, that's not good. She shut it down. And completely, just shut it down. And then as I was growing up, I just used suppressants just to suppress all of that. Drugs, smoking, alcohol. Because I would feel a lot, I see a lot, but that was bad, right? So I turned to numbing. When I turned 17, I had a child at 17. And he was my spiritual awakening. He helped me. I wanted to be a different parent. I did not want to be my mom. So it forced me to change. It forced me to clean up my shit and not be her. So I did that. And that's kind of why I end up being who I am today. It's because my son.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. It was a blessing in disguise.
All the stuff, I feel similar, like all the stuff I experienced growing up, it was like, bad, no, you're not supposed to talk about that. And like, at least in my family, it was like, if someone did believe me, it was like, the devil's trying to get you, or,
Right.
something like you're being
Devil
attacked.
child.
And yeah, and for me, it's just like, oh God. It is, like you said, you start to associate like shame with that, and you just you stifle, you cut yourself off from your truth, and it just becomes, I feel like it throws everything else off in your like homeostasis
Everything.
of just throughout. And
Yeah.
I feel that, and I feel like same, it wasn't until I had kids that I started to be like, hey, I have to understand what this is, because if any of them experience that, I want to be able to help them and be there for them and at least so they know, like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm here for you. I believe you. You're not Satan. Like,
You're not different. You're not Satan, right?
yeah, you've just got, like, the way I see it is, we've got a radar of, like, what we can sense, what we can see, lights and colors and sounds. Ours just tends to be a little more sensitive. That's all. Our tuning forks just radiate a little harder. So, I don't know how else to say it because most of the time I still default back to, nope, that wasn't real. That's not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the
Yeah.
programming that's been inside of you from your family. And then you go to that, and then you don't mean to with your kids, you don't mean to, with your partners or whatnot, but it does affect everyone. It affects not just your kids, but it affects your relationships with people. It affects you, your health, your money, your all kinds of stuff, your job.
So, did you find that when you stood in yourself, you're like, this is who I am, this is what I know? Did you find that more of your relatives were able to release some of that baggage and start talking about it too? Like, I experienced that too.
Oh, yeah. I've been in hiding doing all this spiritual work, literally under a rock. They didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it. And then when I really reclaimed my power and stood up to my mother, because that's where my authority was. So when I stood up to my biggest authority, which was my mom, what happened after that, everything started shifting. My family actually called me and asked for me to go to their home to clear their homes.
Wow.
Yeah, I've even had some of my cousins come to me and had me do readings on their children. And now my aunts are open to actually talk to me. My mom now even asked me, "Do you see my mother? Do you see grandma?" I even took to my mom to the grave of my grandfather, her father, when she was about to go to surgery, and she asked to take. She goes, "Oh, can you take me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then my grandfather is like, "You need to bring her to the grave." I'm like, "Okay." So she doesn't know what I was up to. I just go, "Hey, mom. Hey, mom, we're going to go see grandpa, since we're going over there." She's like, "Yeah, that would be such a great idea." Yeah. So I'm like, "Okay." Little does she know.
It's grandpa's idea.
You're right. It was grandpa roping us in. So I was just like taking her, following directions. So we get there, and there was these two wooden horses on his grave. And I stood it up, cleaned up the grave. We're sitting there chit-chatting, talk story there for a while. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what the hell are we doing here? What the hell is it? And then at that moment, my mom opens her mouth. She goes, "Dad, I'm going to surgery. Can you please look over me?" Right after it came out of her mouth, the wind started going. The two horses I put back up fell back down. And I go, "Oh, you got your answer. Time to go. Thanks, Grandpa." And we packed up and we left. And it was great because it got her to see how powerful she was. That even though she didn't believe, she got to believe. So we got in the car and I go, "Hey, Mom, did you just notice what just happened?" She goes, "What?" And I go, "Well, after you asked Grandpa for help, all that happened and we left." She was like, "Yeah, that's right. That was kind of crazy, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was you."
That
You
was kind
standing
of
in your power
crazy.
because it comes from her, you know?
Yeah, she was the one asking.
Yeah. And so because this Kahuna lineage comes from her bloodline, she has it too. She just doesn't know because of all her shit, from all her programming. So it was great to see her like her face was like, "Yeah, that was kind of cool, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, that was you."
Well, and
Jeez.
it's interesting what's allowed to continue and what's not. Because, like, at
Yeah.
least in my family, we've talked about this where, like, my grandma, she would do the natural healing, like the herbal medicines and, certain things. Like, they still believed in the evil eye, the ojo, and doing stuff for that. But if I brought up anything where I saw any, like, ghosts or presences or felt something, then it was like, no, that's not real. That doesn't exist. And it's like, hold on. How do you believe in the ojo, but you don't believe that like people can curse people, but you don't believe that there are spirits out there? I don't understand how the one exists and the other doesn't. But okay. And They did not. And it's funny, like you said, because once I started, especially with like the podcast, John, once I started talking about these things more and just saying, well, screw it. I've
Accept
seen
it,
and
yeah.
experienced things that I don't understand and whatever.
And
It
you
is
hear
what
it
is.
too, doing the audio.
Yeah, it's like I accept that some stuff just doesn't make sense. Shit doesn't
Right.
make sense. Like I started noticing more of my cousins started talking. And like, have you seen this? Have you experienced that? Well, I felt this. Well, I've been my whole life feeling that. And I'm like, I knew it wasn't just me. Because I felt like an outcast, right? Like you feel like an outcast when you feel like you're the only one. But then when you when you connect with the other one, like your relatives, and they're like, okay, yeah, me too. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only weird
Right.
one. Okay, yay.
And see, I kind of had not exactly the same experience because when I, was growing up, we did see stuff, and my aunt's house had some weird shit going on, and my cousin, she's a year or two younger than me, she would see stuff. And she would tell me, and I'm like, all right, cool, I don't see it. Of course, it's like in the middle of the night when we're sleeping, she'd wake me up. Hey, look, there's this big red cloud floating up. I'm like, no, it's we're inside. No, you're whatever, I'm going to bed. But, I would still get that weird feeling like, yeah, there's something freaking in here.
Yeah.
And so, like, the two of us, we obviously were kind of into it. So we would tell her mom, and they kind of were like, no, maybe it's just your imagination, or maybe you were dreaming. But then as we got older and we kept seeing things, and then I joined, the paranormal group and everything else, and I started talking about it more. More of my family, like you guys said, would start talking about it. Oh yeah, by the way, your aunt and your mom, they used to play with the Ouija board, and bad shit happened. Don't do that. And yeah, so, but I'm like, with that, that's a whole other thing. You
Right.
whatever you're thinking about is what you're going to bring in. So
Oh,
like if you're
absolutely.
trying to, yeah. So I think they were just not ready for whatever it was. But yeah, so it was cool. And now my whole family, hey, there's this weird shit happening over here. Go over there. Go check it out. And I'm like, all right, cool.
I'm on it.
And with my daughter too, she I started her off young, and Ashley obviously knows, and our listeners know because we've talked about this a few times. So I'll shorten it a little bit. But I used to take her ghost hunting when she was like 9, and once she turned 13, she started hearing and seeing things. And the poor kid thought she was schizophrenic. So she was, obviously the age where everybody can look up Google stuff. And I don't recommend it when you're trying to figure out what's going on in your head because it's not always right. So she was freaking out. Her mom didn't know how to deal with it. So they called me, and she's just like, hey, can you, help out? And I'm like, yeah, what you're seeing is normal. Everything's, you're just seeing things. You have gifts, use them. And so she's just been kind of helping me out with that stuff a little bit too. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, growing up, my cousins would mess around with stuff. My cousins are all also gifted as well. And we would talk as cousins, about it. But when it came to like telling our parents, oh, that was a no-no. That was a negative. But yeah, growing up, our cousin, I remember one of my cousins would take the Ouija board, and behind her grandmother's house was a graveyard, and we would go play in the graveyard all the time. And we wouldn't be afraid though being in the grave. Like
Right.
we would just walk around like no big deal. Like there's even stories of my grandfather of like talking fluent Hawaiian, and the door opens up in their house. And then all of a sudden he says something else in Hawaiian, and then the door closes when he's done talking. So, so growing up that way, they seen their father doing this stuff, but then for some reason, their kids, my mom and my aunt, nothing. It's blocked. But then my cousins and I, we talk about it all the time, so it's kind of interesting in that sense. It's like, all right. And even like my nephew, when he was born, I told my sister, don't mess him up. Don't fuck him up. Straight up. Don't fuck him up.
Isn't that what we wish for all kids though? Like, don't fuck them up.
Yeah. I told her straight out, don't fuck him up. Because I was in meditation and I seen a baby spirit wanting to be born. And I was like, ain't coming through my body. So you go, like, ain't coming here. So I sent him over to my sister. Hey, she would love to have you. She got pregnant. Literally, she
She
got
would
pregnant.
love to have you.
Yeah, she loved to have you. Go
But
over
don't
there.
fuck him up.
Yeah, don't fuck him up. So when he was born, when she got pregnant, I told him don't fuck him up. And so when he was born, he would see stuff, and she would call me like he's crying, and I was like, so I'll get on the phone and I'll be like, oh, he sees something outside. So I would teach him as a child how to have energetic boundaries, how to protect himself, and all that stuff, and he's not afraid.
I wish I had you around when I was little. I have well, a lot of it. I feel like a lot of what, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like I have a hunch that a lot of my gifts are also tied to my dream world.
Oh yeah.
Because I've got ever since I was little, I've been able to lucid dream, but I also kind of struggle with insomnia, and I also struggle with sleep paralysis. So my dreams are, but my sleep state's all fucked. But it really is. But I've always known that though. It's not like I've known anything different. So it's and it comes and goes in waves, the sleep paralysis. But some of the sleep paralysis is oh great, and it's annoying because I know I'm just in that state trying to get myself out of it. But other times it's oh great, something else is in here with me. This is bullshit because I can't move and I can't do anything other than just stare at whatever is with me. And it's not always pleasant, whether it's real or not.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
It's not always pleasant. Some things are raging, and some might say maybe that's my inner psychology. My rage is coming out to present itself to me. I don't know, but some of it is raging, and I'm this is uncomfortable. I can't move, and there is something very rage filled right there. And please don't touch me. I'm just gonna close my eyes and try and wake myself up.
Right.
It's not fun.
No,
And
it's not. I can totally relate.
I feel like a lot of what I'm able to do in my dreams leaves me vulnerable because I haven't been able to protect myself there. And John knows that. I hate that my dreams are so vulnerable because I feel like during the day, I could totally cup myself and block, I guess, downshift to 2D, right? Where I'm just kind of normal human being walking around muted and blocked. But when I go to sleep, it all opens up and I'm damn it.
It's a whole new world, and it's not the good kind either.
It isn't.
Damn it, Aladdin, you lied.
Girl, I can help you out on that.
I'm going to be your number one fan.
I can definitely help you out because my son, he could dream like there is no tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I always have trouble with the dream thing. It's only because I started clearing my own shit that I'm able to actually tap into my dreams. I remember once I got so afraid, I was sleeping and I felt a presence sit on me. I could scream all I wanted and it never came out. And then I literally had to shake myself up, but I felt a heavy presence sit on me. That freaked me the fuck out. So then when I started just clearing my own stuff and being conscious of my dreams when I go out and where I'm going and starting to be conscious of that and working that energy when I leave my body and when I come back from my body, making sure I don't bring anything shitty ass back from the dream world that it comes in my reality shit, because it does happen. Then making that clear connection and being conscious of that and aware of that really helped me because after I had my son, I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. I was medicated, and I didn't want to be medicated because I had a brand new baby. I gotta wake up for him. So he would sleep right next to me, and I would take half pills of Ambien because I'm freaked out that I'm not gonna wake up for my kid, but I need to sleep, and I couldn't sleep, and it was just driving me bonkers. So when I started doing my own spiritual work, I can sleep now. I can sleep now. I don't need medication anymore to do any of that. So, girl, I got you. I can help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's a love-hate relationship because I do feel because I've had all of my life to be able to experience it, I've learned to evolve certain things, I guess, or learn certain, I've taught myself how to dream jump within my dreams. I've taught myself to shift my dreams, and
that's awesome.
It's taking time, and so that probably doesn't help with the sleep paralysis. So I'm probably breaking some connection, but it's it's, you know, when that's all you've got.
That's an awesome superpower.
I don't know.
That's freaking badass, girl. Like, especially now where we're going in the age of Aquarius, our dreams are now becoming so real and reality really quick because it's our thoughts. So the dream world and our real world are becoming parallel. So you're going to notice things are going to instantaneously happen in your reality because of that. So if you can like clean that up and girl, you'd be, oh my God, that'd be
Girl,
amazing.
get it together, girl, and use it.
That is such a great superpower to have.
That made me think of, and I never put the connection together, but I once heard, and I really like the phrase, you are what you think. And so it's like you always need to think about how you view yourself and how you view the world, because that's what manifestation you end up becoming and the world around you. So it would make sense that applies to your dreams too, right? It's like you are what you think, even in your dreams. And so, holy cow, that's cool.
I'm glad you learned something today.
If nothing else. No, I feel like I learned so much from you. Just even in our last conversation, you brought up so much that I was like, holy cow, all the layers. You mentioned past lives. You read past lives, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's like, even with that, like, because I asked you, do you, and I'll just ask again, do you have to be in a certain state? Do you have to meditate? Do you have to like be in a certain space to read someone? Or can you just have a conversation and read them at the same time?
Oh, yeah, I can. They just, if something comes up and I'm reading something or noticing something, like yesterday, I had a conversation with a client and we were just talking. I didn't even do energy work yet. And then all of a sudden, I started doing the energy work immediately, going into it. And the past life was for her was that she was a shaman for a tribe. And because she was this person in the tribe, everyone came to her for healing. And guess what's happening in her reality? All her family calls her up. Hey, your uncle's going to go to surgery. Can you pray for him? Can you send some healing energy to him? I'm not feeling well. Can you send me some healing? So this past life been affecting her because this past life she was the shaman, the healer, but had no boundaries. Had no boundaries in that. In this lifetime, she has no boundaries in that either.
So she's repeating it.
So of course she created also the family members part of that past life that's creating that as well.
So then when you are doing the past life reading of somebody, it's not so much like a past life progression. You're keying into the past life that's currently affecting the present life. Is that what I got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What's happening to you right now that's still coming through, and that energy that's still coming through from that, let's nip that in the butt. Because what you're doing right now in this present moment, and you're a contract that you chose to in this life, is that updated or is that something in the past? Because you don't want your past to come and like interfere what you're trying to achieve and accomplish here in this body, in this life.
Yeah, that makes sense because there's so many past lives that people could potentially have. So really, what's you're keen in on the one that's like still actively tying to and potentially really impacting, like that thread that's strongly still impacting the person.
Yeah, because the only thing is right now in this present moment is the only thing that we got. So why don't we work with what's going on with you right now, and what I get asked all the time, like, oh, am I from here? Am I human? Am I from? I go, does that affect you anyway right now? Like what you're trying to achieve in this life right now? Because if it's not, then why are you asking this question? How's this helping you? But I can read that, sure, because you want to know, because you're analyzing it. Great, I'll answer it. But how is that serving you right now, getting you to your goal that you want to achieve in this soul with this body?
Because I, based on what the people ask you, I have wondered about that. We hear of like, and I think, did Kevin do one? A past life progression?
He did,
a
actually,
regression?
He did with our psychic that we had with the group.
Because I've always wondered about those. You hear about like, and they write down all the lives as they go back and back and back. And I always wonder, like, is it always And that's a general statement because I'm sure lots of people have had it done and I don't know all their answers. But if you ever notice, it's typically the past lives happen here on Earth. And so I wonder, do our souls or energetic compositions, do they stay, are we bound to one area? Or do we potentially exist in other, like, not at the same time, but like in other galaxies or other planets or other spaces?
Oh yeah,
Because I never heard about that.
absolutely. I have a really close girlfriend. She does sound. She's an amazing sound therapy. She's been doing it for years. And every time I look at her energy and I look at her, she is not from here. Like she is not from here. She is human, but there's something else going on with this woman.
Her previous
And
life is somewhere else.
yes, and so she's pulling that information. But that information is helping her serve her in this lifetime. She's from Lemuria. So she's from that don't know the right verbiage, but that. So she has that information. So she's here to bring through that information and embody that information. So cool, right on. That's serving her. That's helping her achieve her goal.
I feel that though, because I feel like I've met some people that you just meet them, and even if you don't know the words to put into it, you're like, damn, there's no way you're from here. Like, I know you are, but like, you don't feel, you feel so different, and the energy about them is just, I always call them unicorns. I'm like, you are so magical in a way that, like, I just don't think you originate from here. You were not originally sourced here.
But there is an agreement why they chose to have this body and live here with this body. So looking at that agreement of what was their soul contract, why they're here. What are they here to live out? Are they just here to live out because they just want a human experience and they're just done with that life? Like they're like, okay, I've been there, done that. I just want to try something different. And I want to be on Earth and I want to have a human experience and go through whatever human does. Or am I trying to bring some information through that's going to help the human race to evolve?
Yeah, because we do evolve at some interesting speeds, don't we? So when you talk about, because you've mentioned it a few times, agreements, like the soul contracts, like what's the purpose of these agreements and where are those agreements being made? Like who is that agreement with? Is it just yourself, or could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah. So it's agreements that you've made to choose to have this life experience. You chose this before you incarnated in this body. And these agreements are all lessons that you want to experience. This is what we're here for, right? We're human living a human experience. Human. And so it's like, what did you choose? Do you want to experience wealth? Do you want to experience love? Do you want to experience like your power of control? Like what is those agreements that you have? How is that going to serve you and how are you going to get these agreements in this life? Because what happens is when you don't fulfill these agreements, you leave that, it's like the lesson isn't done. So then you go back and you're like, oh shit, I didn't learn that fucking lesson, so I gotta come back down and relearn the goddamn lesson again. Like, do I really want to do that? It was painful the first time. Like, why do I want to do it again? You know?
It's like once you chose it, you got to do it until it's done.
Right, or you don't, or whatever. You can choose another path. It's free will, right? We live in a space of free will. You do whatever you want, but you chose this agreement for some reason, right?
It's like, I'm done learning the love experience. Can you guys put me on the money train? I'm kidding.
Yeah, totally. I want the money and the love. Like,
well, of course. Okay, let's just have the fulfilling life.
Right.
So then I hesitate, but I ask, are you able to read one of us? Or I don't know how tasking that is.
Who wants one?
I'll go for it.
All right.
I'm scared, but I'll do it. I hate to find out stuff I don't want to know. But I do, but I don't.
Okay, cool. Give me a moment.
Yeah, take your time.
I knew this was coming. I was going to ask you, and I was like, nah, if it happens, it happens.
I know. I've been going back and forth. I'm like, do I want to know?
Yeah, we don't like to totally ask, but it's curious.
Okay. So at the moment, you are vibrating in a turquoise color. And this turquoise color, and well, that's the color you're vibrating at right now. And it's a beautiful color. Oh my God, it is like the ocean. It's very vast, it's very open, it's so inviting, it's cleansing, but there but you are not completely standing in that and reclaiming that. You're like right on the back of you, like you're not in your body, you're like in the back, right side of you right now, and you're
Okay.
kind of like looking at that, and you're looking at your body, and you're like you're just taking it. You're just like,
I like the exasperated.
that's your spirit. Your spirit's the one who's telling me all this. I'm just the middle person.
I'm here for it. Keep it coming.
So you're like, fuck. Do I want to do this?
That sounds like about right.
Yes. And you're like, but I'm fine out here. I'm fine doing my thing here. Why you do this to me? So there is times in your life that you get pushed and you're just like, I don't want to. I'm not ready yet. I don't want to. But you get pushed. You get really pushed because you're meant to. You're meant to get pushed, and you're meant to actually stand in this, and you're clear this for your family. It looks like that, yes, you have a past life where you were the seer of the tribe, but it does look like that you've seen so much that you didn't know how to protect everyone. You've seen things coming, but you didn't know how to save everyone, so this really hurt you, that you couldn't save everyone, because everyone had to go through that experience, had to go through that pain, and you couldn't say, you couldn't help. So in this lifetime, how this affects you in this lifetime is the same thing.
I feel like I'm constantly trying to help because I want nobody to be in pain. And then I feel like I get so overwhelmed by thinking about how there's so many people in pain and I just can't help everybody. And it becomes really disheartening. And it's hard. It is hard because it's almost like that shadow of doom, right? Like I can't help everybody, but I need to, and I don't know how. I feel that.
And yeah, and that's why you actually made a choice to not see. Because if you said that if you don't see, that means you won't be responsible of the pain.
But you know what's ironic about that is my biggest thing this journey is that I feel
Yes.
everybody's
Yes,
pain.
you do. You
And I'm
do.
like, damn it.
Yes. Well,
it went the
actually,
wrong
because
way.
you did it out of resistance. You did it out of fear is why you blocked it off. So when you have that much energy of fear, resistance, what resists persists, right? So it's going to push you more. It's going to knock at your door instead of you embracing like, hey, I have this amazing gift. I can use this gift as really helping people, and then versus taking on the pain of the world, because the pain of the world is coming from this past life where you've seen stuff, but you couldn't help them. So in this lifetime, you're like, okay, I want to help everyone because you're trying to clean up that karma. You're trying to clean that up.
Oof, that's heavy.
Yeah, you have also an ancestor that's with you as well, and she keeps pushing you. Man, she has so much knowledge. She has so much power. Oh my God, girl. And she's like here to help you and assist you to go through this journey and support you. Actually, you have so much family support that you don't even realize. Even though you're in this lifetime, the family that you are with, because this karma has been passed down, they don't know how to correctly use this or how to support you in this. So then they got shut down. But really, you do have a lot of support. You feeling is your way of navigating the world. You have a very strong emotional empathy and emotional strength. So you tapping into your emotions is actually your way of helping, because you can feel other people's pain even though they don't notice it. They're unaware of it. But here's the trick. You not taking on the pain, but you being able to separate their pain so that you can say it without you being activated from it and you taking on their stuff. That's the thing that you'll need to learn in order to not take on and be steamrolled with all of this like you have been. And then shutting down and then being afraid of this is just too much. I can't take it. I need to go in hibernation. I need to run away from people. I cannot deal with life. Like, I just leave me the fuck alone. But they gonna come find you. They will find. They find you. They find you in bathroom stalls. They just don't know because you have this energy about you. They find
I
you
find you in bathroom stalls.
anywhere, random people. But you're meant to help them. You're meant to. But you're meant to like take care of yourself and using your powers correctly. That's going to help you and support you so you can help and support others. Does that make sense?
Yes. I got to figure out how to connect to these ancestors because I have a feeling inside of me I'm supposed to do that, but I
Yes.
don't know how.
And that's a good question because there's so much people who have that same question. Like they know, but they don't know how. And the reason why they are stuck in that and they're asking this question is because there's a lot of fear that they got to get through to connect to them. So somewhere down the road, something happened, you got disconnected, someone told you something, whatever that is, so you got to like break through all of those blockage to so that your body, it's actually your body feels comfortable because your body's the one that's going to freak out. Your body's the one who has the fear. It's not your spirit because your spirit already knows your ancestor. You guys are family. So you know, it's your body that's built up with all of the fear, the anxiety around what that's been told because we hold all of that energetic stuff, right? Especially if your family has passed that on energetically and in your DNA. So if that trauma already existed in your family, so you have to go back and heal the body and the DNA and the bones because that's where you store all that information. You store all that family ancestral negative and positive karma in that DNA.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a lot of trauma that goes through our people.
Yeah. So when we go through trauma, we hold it in our body and then we decide we do our own coping mechanisms to deal with the trauma in the body. And if that's not corrected, then that trauma gets passed down into the next body because you're pregnant with it. So all that DNA, you're in the body, you're in your mom's womb. So all of that gets passed down into you. And then you're born with that. And then that's how a generational karma continues to play out in these old way of operating how we deal with trauma in the body. And this also affects our spiritual as well.
I do have a question. During our conversation, you mentioned a kuleana. What's a kuleana?
Kuleana is responsibility. It's your responsibility. So what is your responsibility and what other people's responsibility? You hear it all the time. Like that's not my business. Like, but a lot of people like to be in other people's business and be nosy. So you know what I mean.
For
And
sure.
when you do that, what you're doing is you're creating more karma for yourself because you're interfering in someone else's path, someone else's life, and you're putting your 2 cents and your energy in it. So we can't resolve an energy if you didn't create it. If you didn't create the problem, you can't resolve it. So you ever had situations like something happens and you go to your friend and you're asking for solutions and you try their solutions and it doesn't work out? Well, because it's their energy, not your energy. That's why it doesn't resolve. Because it's your kuleana to take care of that problem because you created that problem. But what you're doing is you're passing your problem onto someone else to deal with.
So, one thing you mentioned before that I was curious about, what is the dark night of your soul?
So the dark night of the soul is a time and period of your life where you start to question your whole entire life. Your whole belief system gets brought up. What you've been told as a child from your parents, from your doctors, from your teachers, and you're trying to see like, does this resonate with me? Is this true? Is this, and some things that you haven't addressed, like karmic patterns that you keep doing in cycles, those are going to come up. These patterns, these deep-seated patterns. And if you don't take care of them during this phase, you'll continue to have them throughout later in life, and then you're called midlife crisis. Then it's the pattern comes up again. You see this all the time where someone's stuck in high school. They have the high school mentality mentally. Emotions is still the same in high school. They probably look like the same as they were in high school, but they're 30 something years old. Nothing's really changed about this person. Well, what is? They're stuck. They're stuck in that. They haven't gone through their soul, their spirit, to unbaggage all of that. And so they get stuck in that pattern, and then they continue that pattern later in life, and then they end up being that, you know.
Are you able to resolve those cycles outside of the dark night?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just harder, I guess.
Yes. So the deeper, the longer you wait, the deeper the pattern. So it's like there's going to be a certain point where a lot of the change isn't going to happen, but you could make some changes, right? But there's going to be a point where they are so ingrained, they're so deeply ingrained in you that it's just kind of how it is.
What does resolving it look like? Like, if it's like, okay, I identify that I'm still stuck with this pattern because I didn't resolve it then, but I want to fix it now or heal through it now. Like, what would that look like? What would they potentially need to do? Or does it just depend what the problem, like what the pattern is?
Well, first of all, you have to have the agreement to want to change the pattern. If it's in your soul contract that this is what you want to work on in this lifetime, don't worry, you're going to work on it. It's going to happen. Okay? It's your choice if you're going to ignore it or not. Like, I have an example. I have a client, actually. She's 33 right now. Before 33, things were easy for her to manifest. Things were, like, quite easy. And then things happened in her life, and then it started to become troublesome for her. And I mentioned that she's going through the dark night of her soul because what she is setting up later in her life is to really be of service of humanity. And what she's carrying on right now cannot be when she's being a service to humanity. She has to change. So if this goal or this dream or this agreement that you want, you're going to clear everything that's in the way of that. And that is inner child work, that is shadow work, that is the dark night of the soul, that. And you're going to go through some really deep stuff.
Do you also do shadow work?
Yep, shadow work, inner child work, all of that, all in one. Because I'm dealing with your current lifetime agreement in this lifetime. So whatever comes up that's not in that agreement, it's going to come up. All of it. So I don't just work just specifically on inner child, because when you work on your inner child and you work on your karmic patterns with your family, it's going to work everything. You cannot ignore one, just do this, and not think that it's going to affect your other part of your life. That doesn't work that way. We're all connected.
It's like exercise. You can't spot train one section. It like hits the whole body.
It hurts everything. Everything. Even things that you never thought it would hit. Yeah, so you might as well just go through, and that's what I told my client, you might as well just tackle the main one. The main one will take care of everything else.
It makes you think about, too, though, outside of yourself, like pausing and saying, okay, well, if this is how my ancestors or even my parents have affected my ancestral baggage, how am I doing that to my kids? Like, am I creating some baggage for them or perpetuating baggage for them that I'm not aware of that might be starting to cycle through or start that pattern for them? And how do I stop that? Like, if ever is like the damage done, or is it something I can work with them to clear up too?
Oh yeah, you can definitely work that with your kids. Like, I remember this is before I had any spiritual training, okay? My son was like 7. He pissed me off. I don't even know why at this time, but he was 7. And I was yelling at him on the top of my lungs, and I was not the best. And all I remember is seeing his face at 7 years old, looking at me, crying at me, and I could see it in his face going, why are you so mad at me? Why are you so angry at me? What did I do so bad that made you, like, not love me anymore? And I seen this in my 7-year-old child. And at that moment, as I was screaming at my kid, I could feel my mom's voice come through me. I could feel like that wasn't me. And when I seen it on my son's face, I stopped. I knew that I needed to stop because I did not want my son to feel the way I felt like as a child. My mom used to make me feel the same exact way. And so I stopped and I looked at my son and I said, I'm sorry. Can you please forgive me? Ho'oponopono. And he said, yes. I go, I need your help. And he goes, yeah, of course. I go, I want to be a better parent for you. I want to be a better mother for you, but you need to help me. I need your help. So when I'm screaming or yelling or talking to you any way that you don't like it and it makes you feel uncomfortable, please tell me. And he helped me break that pattern. And he's 25 now and he keeps me straight. And so I have such a beautiful, loving communication with my son. And it's not from how my mom used to communicate with me. So I was able to break communication patterns that my mom would have with me down to my son.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Like, I talked to my brother about that, like how we see so much, like our family almost like exists in like default anger and rage. And I noticed the past few years within myself that I find myself getting that agitation and anger and almost not rage because I don't get that angry, but just like getting really angry inside. And I'm like, why am I so angry? I will check myself and it's like, what am I so angry about? And I see that I could like default. I can default and snap if I like, I see how easy I could lean into that. But instead it's like, whoa, I don't want to go there. I don't want to teach that. And I don't want to feel that, right? Because it's almost like a self-poisoning.
Yeah.
Like I'm poisoning myself trying to kill someone else. I'm kidding. But it's just like, I feel it spread throughout me. And it's like, man, that is a poison. It's toxic. And I don't
It's
want
not
to be
you.
that. Yeah. And
What it is your family patterns coming through you, so it's building up inside of you, and that's what you feel. It's that. It's channeling through you. And so you feel that on such a deep level, that high level, and anxiety brings you anxiety because what you're doing, you're holding all of that pain from your past, and it's trying to come through you.
a while ago, I had read that anger is not a default emotion, that it's a redirect. So we feel sadness, we feel fear, we feel happiness. And that when we are feeling angry, it's actually a misdirection we're doing within ourselves that's from something else. We're afraid or we're sad, but we are redirecting it to anger because that we feel stronger in.
Yes.
We don't feel weak and vulnerable. And so for me, I try to like, it's not always successful, but when I'm very angry, I'm like, what the hell am I misdirecting? Like, what the fuck is redirecting inside of me? Am I sad? Am I feeling, anxious or depressed? And I'm redirecting it to anger so I don't feel vulnerable, so I don't feel weak. And I don't know, maybe it's a combination of things, but it's, yeah. And like you said, a lot of what family generations go through is fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like maybe our familial anger and rage is fear. It's sadness that carries on and just gets redirected to anger because in anger we mislead ourselves into thinking that we are stronger. We are not at the mercy of something else.
We're using anger to override the pain instead of dealing with the pain. That's the sadness. We're using it to cope, to override, to ignore, because these behaviors, these anger behaviors, sadness behaviors are learned from how our parents dealt with anger, how our parents dealt with sadness. So if we've seen our parents growing up sad and then they're covering up and making like that, oh, we have to be strong for the kids, we don't need the kids to see me sad or cry, that's weak, so we're gonna just be angry about it or not, or just be uncomfortable. It's because we're avoiding the pain. So we use anger sometimes to avoid that. And then you ever had, like, you call someone out and then they get angry right away? Well, that's a default mechanism because they don't want to address the pain. The real issue is the pain that's underneath there. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to address it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to take their kuleana, pretty much.
Whew, this is all heavy real. But stuff that needs to be talked about.
Yes, and these are past patterns that we end up watching in our environment. We feel it in our environment growing up. We see it in our environment, how others deal with their emotions, how others deal with the pain and the sadness and the fear and the anger. And when it's not dealt with and we are ignoring it, we're avoiding it, then it comes out to be bigger blowouts, and it'll affect you in all your areas in your life. It'll affect your kids even though you don't mean to, and all of a sudden you're lashing out at them.
Yeah.
My mom didn't know how to deal with her own pain, so she was in rage all the time. So then, when I got upset with my son, I didn't know how to deal with that, and then I ended up doing that to my son, and thank God that I was able to stop myself, and I got to see that and change that and break free from that. Curses are made by you.
We gotta get rid of those curses.
Yeah, they're made by you and how you handle situations and deal with situations in your life. And if you're going to continue to handle situations and just brush things under the carpet or like ignore things, then what do you think your kids are going to learn? What do you think you're going to show other people? They pick it up, they smart. They know. And this is why the dark night of the soul comes in, because then this is all this stuff that's coming up,
I think it's awesome when people can pause. That's really special to me. When someone can pause and step outside of that and say, that is a pattern, that is a cycle. I don't want to be a part of it. I think it's magical when people can pause and say, whoa, that is a cycle. Whether you think it's tied to ancestors, past lives, or just present. Like you said, you got to deal in the present shit sometimes. And knowing that whatever it is, whatever the source is impacting your present, and being able to say, that's got to stop now. Because that's not good for me, and it's just going to keep going. And it's not good for other people. I think for me, it took me having kids to be really aware of that and say, oh, I don't want them to grow up in that world. Because I didn't really look back at it in self-pity, right? It's not like, oh, I can't believe I was exposed to all that or saw all that or experienced all that. I didn't do that. It's just like, that's my life. That's my journey. But when they were born, it's like, fuck, I got to protect them at all costs. And I don't want them to experience that journey or that life because they don't need to. They can have a life without learning, like having my lessons learned. I learned it for us. I went through it for us. They don't need to go through that to get to the same space. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
Good job, Mama.
I don't know. I still fuck up.
Yeah, we all gonna fuck up. We're human.
I was gonna say, we all do.
Right. We all fuck up.
But it's about doing the best we can.
But the pause is awesome. That is so powerful. Just to sit and listen. We don't listen at all anymore. And we're not talking to each other anymore.
I think the hardest part for me is Kuliana. Mind your fucking business. Because when you have a personal aha and someone else can see that aha, but you can't force them to, right? Like you can't force their pause. You can't force that aha. Your eyes are awake. You can't. And so it's frustrating not to be like, wake the fuck up. It's because you can't, because that's only going to make people more resistant, right? More defensive. And so it's just like, oh, that's how I feel sometimes with people. It's like, oh, I know what your journey could be. Oh, I know how amazing and powerful and lovely you could be if you got out of your own way. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy to get out of your own way. Trust me, I know. Like we just talked about, I'm in my own fucking way.
Yeah. The best bet there I like to do for people is like, here's the present. I put everything inside the box and I go, here, you deal with that. I'll leave that there for you when you're ready for that. That's your Kuliana. I'm going to go over here and go fucking deal with my life. You know what I mean? It's like, here you go. Here, you go. You go deal with that. That's all on you, boo. I got enough shit in my life to take care of.
What I love that you mentioned that, because we're always gonna, like, there's not a perfect space, right, where we just reach a moment of, okay, I'm all healed, I'm all better, and life is perfect now. Like, we're always gonna have new shit and new data to process, and it's gonna fuck us up, and we may regress, we may come back. Like, we're ever flowing, right? And so, like, I love that you said you have a 72-hour response time, because you're like, I gotta handle my shit too.
Yeah, I'm a human. I gotta handle my shit too. Like shit comes up all the time for me as well, and I need space and time to deal with my stuff so that when I show up for people, I'm not bringing all that stuff through because I took care of my Kuliana, my shit. I know it's hard to do sometimes, especially if we're like heavily programmed not to, but
Yeah.
it is learned. You can unlearn all of that. It wasn't easy before, but what I like to do is just like, hey, here's your stuff. Let me know how that worked out for you. I'm here for you, but here, go take your stuff. But hey, when you're ready, I'm here. I'm the type of person that I want to help everybody. Like I was the people pleaser before. I would people please. I would want everyone to be comfortable around me. So I would overextend myself and put everyone else's needs before my own. And that right there caused so much pain for me. Like, as I said, like I would have migraines. I would be on the ground for days. I just couldn't like function in my life because I took on so much. So by having those experiences, it helped me build stronger energetic boundaries for myself. So now that I have them, I don't attract them anymore.
I'm really, really happy that you came on, and I want to stay in touch. I want to stay communicating. You're amazing. You're awesome to talk to you. Hopefully we can get you on again and talk more, because I feel like we barely just scratched the surface.
We have a lot of those episodes.
I mean, and realistically, like when we talk about things like ancestral baggage, there's books and like just so much information out there. It's not something that's going to be like completely covered in one episode. And we were talking about past lives, ancestral baggage, Kahuna Shaman. Like there's so much that in and of themselves could be like a whole season of podcasts. And I know we just kind of gave the very high level view of it.
Just a tip.
So
Just a tip. Exactly.
Sometimes that's all. You know what? Sometimes that's all it takes. I like you.
Me too.
She fits right in.
Yes. And on that note, no, I'm joking.
On that note,
I appreciate being on here. Thank you.
Janese, if anybody would like to contact you about your services or further talking to you about this kind of stuff, like if they feel there's something they need to resolve, would you be open to that?
Yeah, please reach out. There's 2 ways of working with me. I do have a 6-month program where we dive deep in that, clearing some ancestral baggage on there, ancestral limitations. And then, or we can do an hour reading sessions, similar to what we did today with Ashley. That was a little mini. We'll kind of take a look at you, where you are at, and that would be an hour reading. And you can follow me on Facebook, on Janese Recolan on Facebook, or on Instagram, Janese_Ululani. And just message me there, DM me, reach out, and we'll like chit chat and talk story.
Yeah, and we'll get your information put out, like your different social media links. If you want to send us like a bio or something, we're happy to put that on our site, our social media pages, just to help promote what you're doing, because you're helping people. And I love this day and age. I know a lot of people think that like social media and internet has kind of disconnected us, but I think it's also in a way helped connect us to resources we didn't have before. People like you who are helping with healing when some of us just don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Janese.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you coming on. You're amazing.
I appreciate coming in. You guys are amazing too. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you want to bring us home?
Bringing us home. I switched this up a little bit, so let's see if I fuck it up. I will, but hey, we're just floating down the river of fucks. There we go. Lots of fucks today.
Fuck it up.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And we want to hear from you guys. Do you have any episode suggestions, questions, comments, anything of that nature? Please email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And please, if you haven't done so already, please like, follow all of our social media. You definitely don't want to miss a crazy fucking moment.
Until next time.
Bye.